Peace be with you, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Trevor. Very grateful to have you here. And today's video is going to be a recap of my weekly fragrance rotation, ending off on the 1st of September. So the last fragrance in this list is going to be my first fragrance welcoming in the meteorological autumn. Really beautiful, perfect day on Sunday for me. But let's backtrack up to Monday when I wore this fragrance right here, Mancera's Lemon Line. So really kind of getting to know this fragrance. Picked it up sometime in the middle summer, was wearing it around the house, but this was my first time going out of the house with it. And it's a really beautiful, almost spicy, dusty sort of take on a lemon accord. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Voyage d'Hermès Parfum from Hermès, but this one has a lot more of a pronounced lavender note that lends itself a little bit to a barbershop-esque lemony fragrance, a little bit like Moustache Eau de Toilette from Roja as well. Kind of goes into that same vein, but is very long-lasting, powerful, and typical of a Mancera fragrance. Really delectable lemon, and it does a good job of veering it out of that old school sort of urinal cake style accord that maybe the old Rochas Eau de Toilette might lend itself to be a little bit too mature. This one does a really great job of modernizing that sort of DNA and is a delightful lemon accord based fragrance for the summertime. Waiting to wear it a few more times to see if it makes a mainstay into my rotation, because like I said, it kind of goes into that similar vein as, at least for me, Voyage d'Hermès Parfum, which I might make my scent of the day today. But really glad to have this one in the collection, Mancera Lemon Line, pretty high quality lemon fragrance. Next, Tuesday. Tuesday was the hottest day of the year for us. We got all the way up into the 102 range, and it was just sweltering. I was kind of getting ready to transition over into the fall, but weather had other plans. So for Tuesday, I wore this one, Johnvard Artisan Pure, one of my favorite high heat fragrances, one of my favorite summertime fragrances, period. Brought it with me to work, reapplied it occasionally about every 3 hours. It's got about that degree of longevity, but the scent profile is to die for. Really nice white floral, petitgrain, green nuances that cut through the heat and humidity very well, and just has that really nice laid back sort of wearing experience that's perfect for those miserably hot days when you just feel like relaxing a little bit instead of exerting oneself. Absolutely stunning juice. One of my favorite cheapy brands, John Varvatos. They have a lot of high quality stuff in that affordable price range, as long as you're okay with reapplying, because they somewhat lack in performance. Rodriguez Flores Rue is the general in-house perfumer for the brand, and he has some awesome work under his portfolio. Next, for Wednesday. Wednesday was cooling off a little bit. We were still in the 80s, and kind of the air was getting a lot more dry, and it really culminated on Sunday with that introduction into the autumn. But for Wednesday, I wanted to reach for something nice, woody, a little powdery, and couldn't go wrong with this summer staple, Bvlgari's Tigar. Picked up this 30 ml on eBay sometime during this summer season just to get a connection with the scent profile, because the clones are pretty prominent. I have one that I really enjoyed, Junoon Oud from Al Haramain, but wanted to get to know the original, and it is hyped for a reason. I don't think it's anywhere near worth the price of the full bottle at $400. Even at discounters, it really only comes down to like 300 something. Would be a lot more happy paying 200 or less for this fragrance, because I can generally find creeds for around that price point, and generally the creeds are a lot better quality than this, but still an awesome fragrance, compliment magnet, and really long-lasting, powdery, grapefruit, woody, amber fragrance. Really, I can see why it's hyped up, but nowhere near worth the price, and I would definitely say go ahead and get a clone, because they come quite close, at least the ones that I've gotten my nose on. Both Black Panther from Alexandria, I think, is great, as well as, like I said, the Junoon Oud from Al Haramain, and I've even sampled Sospiro's Vibrato, which you can score for like 180. Would definitely recommend grabbing that one if you're looking to get a proper rendition from a formal house on that scent profile. Thursday, again, we were experiencing some of that drier air, but still up into the mid-80s, and this is another one that I really enjoyed, perfumed by the same perfumer who did Tigar. This is Bvlgari Man Extreme, or Bvlgari Pour Homme Extreme. Recently discontinued, but you can still find these 100 mLs on Joma Shop last time I checked for about $100. And this really is a nice, spicy, fresh, a little bit watery feeling black tea. So it reminds me a little bit of when you're sun soaking black tea out on the porch. You got the tea bags and maybe a glass container and the sun shining through it, and you get that ambery light coming through the dark color of the tea. It's got this very bitter nuance to it though, so it's not really like a sweet ambery tone, but more of that bitter earthy quality that you would get from a tea, with some nice according spices and some beautiful citruses to add a degree of dimension to that little bit brown bitterness. Really awesome juice, one of my most complimented summer fragrances. Sad to see it discontinued. We'll have to get my nose on the, I believe, Eau de Parfum or Parfum that they released to replace this one. But this is just one of my favorite tea-based fragrances, and something that I got a lot of enjoyment out of wearing on Thursday. Friday is when I like to wear niche fragrances, and I was kind of reaching for a few different things, but felt that they didn't really accord well for me being at work. I work in a restaurant, deliver food, and so generally I like to grab things that are not so classy, upscale, in terms of the smoothness. Like maybe like an iris, I think feels a little bit out of place when I'm in the kitchen. So I wanted to grab something that has a little bit more of that culinary feel to it. And this one features the note of cumin. So do not blind buy this fragrance because it's expensive, and cumin is a very divisive note, but one that I particularly enjoy and get along with. And so I know I just said I don't like to reach for too classy of fragrances for work, but like I said, it's more of like the textural feel of something smooth. This, however, just has a lot of sparkle going on with it, and I think is a great fragrance for working in a restaurant. This is Roja's Burlington 1819. And this one also goes a little bit in the same direction as the Tigar DNA, but offers a lot more dimension to the fragrance. There's a mojito accord going on in here with a really well done mint and some boozy nuances. And the lemon lime citrus in here adds a sparkle to this that is a textural experience that you're not going to get in any of the Tigar takes. Really awesome stuff. I've seen this one come as low as like $219 on some of the discounters. I think Olfactory LLC had this one in for around that price. Really amazing stuff, but you have to like cumin, so I would recommend maybe checking out Scent Split or another decant distributor like that to get your nose on this one. Pick up like a 2 to 5 ml, wear it around for a little bit. We're moving out of the summer season, however, so maybe this one can be at the top of your to try list for 2025, but really enjoyed that one quite a bit. No compliments on that one. Have yet to receive a compliment on that fragrance, so maybe that cumin is a little bit too off-putting to some people, but like I said, it's one that I particularly enjoy. Really enjoy Cartier Declaration Parfum that also features a heavy cumin. I find it to be a little bit classy of a note, but I can understand why. I've seen some people compare it to taco meat, and I can get that, but I still think it adds a nice dimension to a fragrance that would be lacking otherwise. Okay, so for Saturday, Tom Ford's Costa Azora Parfum. Wore this one because I took the kids out to the local park where it's sort of like a walking path in a forest, and this has a really nice woodsy accord in here. Cypress is the dominant note. It's somewhat of a grown-up, mature, classy take on Aqua de Jo. It removes a lot of the watery sea nuances, keeps this marine feel because it has this blue-green sort of tonality to it, a turquoise-style color feeling because of the cypress in here. There's also some lemon, some amber, and some other woody notes that give it this nice polished feeling, something like a well-glazed-over sort of wood furniture in a home. It definitely has a little bit of this coastal forest vibe to it as well. Recently saw Joy Amin feature this in a list about fragrances that are difficult to wrap your nose around. He said that he still hasn't really gotten to harmonize with this fragrance, and I can kind of see why. I know his tastes are a lot more sweet leaning, and this is an extremely bitter sort of grown-up style fragrance. And not to say that Joy is not grown up, but I know that his tastes lend towards the more sweet side things. Mine are the opposite end of the spectrum, which is why I think I get along with this one quite a bit. Rather expensive, but I think there's that added density in this one compared to the Eau de Toilette or the EDP that makes this one my go-to pick out of the two Costa Azoras, at least in the designer line, and was one of my favorite wearing experiences for the week on Saturday. And then Sunday, like I said, we had a picture-perfect entry into the autumn. It was very bright and sunny outside. It was right around the low 80s, high 70s. A lot of cloud cover, however, where the sun was peeking in and out of the little bits of open air that were allowed in the overcast quality. So it was just very picturesque. The air was very dry. The leaves had just dropped, a small portion of their leaves that had dried out, and there was this rustling of them across the road that you could hear on the winds, which were really picking up as well. Just everything about it was a perfect introduction to the autumn time. So for September 1st, I wore this one, Bvlgari September M. I think it's been discontinued. Really difficult to find this one right now. I think it's going for right around $55–$60. I think you used to be able to pick it up for like $15. I think it's a lot more fair value for that $20 price range. But what you get with this one is like a very much more light, easy to wear take on something like Encre Noire à l'Extrême or Sultan Vetiver by Nishane. This is very much of like a watered down version of those two fragrances. This one doesn't have any resins like Encre Noire à l'Extrême does, and it's very much less dense than Sultan Vetiver, but smells a lot closer to Sultan Vetiver than Encre Noire à l'Extrême, just a lighter version. Wears a little bit like an eau de cologne, so you kind of have to overspray it, but it's a delightful, easy to wear sort of vetiver fragrance. There's a little bit of this barnyardy oud quality going on in here as well that lends itself to that dry, grassy vetiver. There's some citruses that brighten it up, reminds you of the daytime, a little bit of the sparkle and that golden hour sort of light pattern that you get as the light is starting to wane on the ending off of the year. Perfectly rural fragrance. Reminds me of walking down a dirt road up to a barn. And, you know, there's not any of that fecal nuance of the oud, like from the barn animals manuring out into the stables, but you do get that hay kind of feel, that rustic, old, dry wood feel, a little bit of that powdery dirt kind of dust floating around in the air. Perfect fragrance for the day, and I really got a lot of enjoyment out of this one. Probably going to be wearing it quite a bit here in the September season, as is the namesake of the fragrance. And that was my rotation, ending off the summertime, welcoming into the autumn. Had a really great day in terms of the weather for that event, and really looking forward to hearing what you guys have been wearing in the comment section down below. Let me know what you're going to be looking forward to grabbing for as the weather begins to cool down. And as always, I really appreciate you sticking with me to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.